Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing this long enough for my beard to have turned grey sitting on a chair like this. Nearing now 20,000 telecasts on Indian national television. 20,000 telecasts. And yet all my life, after having chosen to devote this in service, I promise you, from the team, very young team I have that has been preparing for this Modi visit to the US, this is not a get-rich-quick profession. We all have to have a dedication and a core duty to perform here, because nobody's going to join media and become billionaires or trillionaires like Elon Musk. So despite the fact that we are as professional as it can be, as hardworking as it can be, me and most of my team will be working 16, 18 hours over the course of this evening and tomorrow morning. Despite all of this, we are told by some agency running somewhere that there is no press freedom in India. You are worse than Afghanistan. We are told by our own people, whom we know, whose fellow citizens we are, that you're all Godi, you are Bhakt. Okay. A genuine effort, if you're regular watchers of NewsX, a genuine effort is made that we understand there are problems in the media. Even every time a Bollywood series comes out, I remember watching this one movie in which the news anchor is so sold out that he is doing a deal with terrorists who come and blow up his newsroom. This happened recently, yeah? So, after having taken all that, you have to do some introspection on what we can do better. So, if you watch NewsX regularly, you know there's no shouting, screaming matches. Okay, everybody is heard out, patience is shown, logic is applied. We report problems, but we also look at solutions, plans, what we can do better, tell the good parts of the India story, not just when something goes wrong. News is never that no murder happened today. News is always murder happened today, right? So, by its essential definition, it becomes negative. So, for all the brickbats that are thrown on people like me and my hardworking team, the assumption is made that those who happen to be writing for publications or organizations based out of Washington, New York, that these are paragons of the faith. They are holier than thou. They are much better professionals than us. They certainly know their deal a lot more. Just like if you are an American entrepreneur and you're a trillionaire, you're Bill Gates, you're Musk, you're so cool. But if you're an Indian entrepreneur and become a billionaire, no, you're all chores, lucheras. So we have this problem. So I'm going to ask a question today, and I've asked this before under the branding, who your Godi? So let's have a look at how certain foreign publications are covering PM Modi's visit to the US. Nothing controversial has happened in this visit. Okay? So this is at the very beginning. Now the American establishment is welcoming our Prime Minister. So there is a persona of Narendra Modi, but also the gravity of who he represents, which is the people of India. Red carpets are being rolled out everywhere. A historic joint session of the US Congress will be addressed by the Prime Minister. But here is what the foreign media publications are saying, okay? And if you think it's all Firangs, no. It's our own people. Think of the snooty people who go into Washington and New York and then look down upon their compatriots back home, okay? You know them because you all have friends and family who live there who look down upon you. So do I, okay? So here's a reality check. Can we put this on our screens? Otherwise, this will just become me chit-chatting with you, which I'm happy to do. So this, ladies and gentlemen, let's show it on our screen so that it's actually readable. My PCR crew will eventually catch up with us. Thank you. So this is the Washington Post. This is an article which is being written by Karishma Mehrotra, okay, who is writing for the Washington Post that as Modi visits the White House, India's reliance on Russian arms constrains him. So the US is saying the most important partnership of the age. That's what the US establishment of a Democrat President Joe Biden is saying. This is what the Washington Post, incidentally, which is owned by, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff Bezos, I might be mistaken, but I think he's the one who owns it. This is what they have to say. Amazon, of course, large company right here in India. Here's another one, Opinion, which has been published by an Indian journalist. Barkha Dutt, sorry America, India will never be your ally. Okay, photograph of Modi with Putin, Washington Post. Their tagline, of course, is democracy dies in darkness. Here's another one. This is by Amer Madhani and Krutika Pathi. Both, I'm told, it's marked here, Associated Press. Biden is ready to fit India's leader, looking past Modi's human rights record and ties to Russia. Right. Okay. Yeah, human rights record. Right. Okay. Opinion by Rana Ayub, the infamous Rana Ayub, still writing for the Washington Post. Modi's political party has weaponized Bollywood. What? I'm sure your Bollywood stars are all roaming around with nuclear weapons in their car trunks. Here's another one. This is the editorial board of the Washington Post. Biden should toast India with Modi and have a word about democracy. We are going to get lectures in democracy according to the editorial board of the Washington Post from the Americans. You know, for all my American friends, India, unlike many others to our west, are not death to America countries. Look at the Indian diaspora that graduates from IIT and IIM and ends up running all your big companies, okay? And you're telling all of them that your democracy is what, 178th in the world. Here's another one. This is Bloomberg. Mihir Sharma. US and India need to deal with their trust issues. Focusing exclusively on shared interests rather than shared values will limit the potential of a crucial relationship. Okay, the White House statement says we won't lecture India on all this nonsense. But guess who wants to? Mihir certainly wants us to be lectured. Here's another one. Why a once banned world leader is getting a state dinner. It's like a Narendra Modi is like Kim Jong-un, once banned state leader. Oh my gosh. Oopsie daisy right there. Here's another one by Bloomberg. Modi looks to solidify India's tech ambition with US visit. Okay. Emboldened India carrying out its own regulatory regime. This is probably the first one that I've seen that is pretty straightforward. This is Sankalp Parthial and Sudhir Ranjan Sen. Here is Jennifer Peltz writing for the Associated Press as printed in the Washington Post. Modi to start US visit with yoga on the UN lawn, a savvy and symbolic choice for India's leader. Okay, balancing act done right there. Here's another one by Mihir on our trust issues, which we have so many trust issues. I think we all need to go into therapy with the trust issues that we have. Okay, so I'm going to ask the question, since all of this is very unbiased and neutral coverage, I am not even gone into the New York Times, you know what's going to happen there. There are many other publications who have written completely different things, who talk about the opportunity in India, the future of India, India century. They will showcase this also. Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, joining us on the broadcast. Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, veteran journalist, joining us on the broadcast as well. Professor Nalapat, no surprises that certain organizations are looking at this as a hostile visit, something that needs to be denigrated and reduced from the level of importance it actually enjoys with the administrations on both sides.
Look, Rishabh, there's been a huge lobby working overtime from 2014 onwards to try and create a very damaging picture of Prime Minister Modi and of India in the United States. And it must be terrible for them to find out that all their effort that is of over 9 years has gone to waste. That frankly, the United States administration understands the fact that, as the Economist, no friend of India or of the Prime Minister, wrote, India has become an indispensable partner for the United States. It must be a terrible, terrible, very painful for them to witness that. And what we are seeing now, frankly, is the very frustrated kind of, outpouring of lava that they're having when they see this state visit taking place. It's very frustrating. that they see this. I mean, you can have a state visit, let's say, for Xi Jinping. That's great. There's no problem. Xi Jinping is, after all, I mean, he's a wonderful leader, according to many people. And you have several media channels there, which essentially have been working 24/7 to try and distance the United States from India. I'd like to point out the same thing happening in India. You have a lot of media and other outlets that have been trying to distance India from the United States. And the effort essentially is to ensure that the two greatest democracies, the two biggest democracies, never come together. They remain estranged. And they remain estranged so that their common security challenges will go unmet, and their common objective, which is a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific, will go unrealized. No prizes for guessing which country will benefit from that the most.
Okay. Can I just get my, if possible, my, I'm just going to make a quick analogy here, and Joyita will forgive me, but sometimes it's easier to make larger points with certain kinds of quick analogous approaches. Okay, so Joyita Basu, let me just have a quick look. Can we just get back to my touch screen here? Okay, can we just please get this on our screen? Okay, so this is Amir Madhani and Krutika Pathi for the Associated Press. Okay, I'm calling you out because you think all of us are Bhakti, Godi. Okay, so Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is, on many counts, a curious choice for President Joe Biden to honor with a state visit. A curious choice. Joyita Basu, an economy that's growing at 7%, which by this time next year will be the fourth largest economy in the world, a democracy that is 4 times larger than the United States of America, is a curious choice. Okay. Now there was, if for an American audience, you will be taught in your history books, Benedict Arnold. Okay. In our context, there was Mir Jafar, collaborators. So you get a good example of how you can give somebody monies in dollars, okay, as long as they are able to bash their own civilizational history. And these people are paragons of free speech, and the rest of us are Godi Bhakti. Why is Narendra Modi a curious choice?
Rishabh, this is because, when we are talking, just as you said, these people are the brown sepoys of their white masters. It's a different matter. People like you and I, we consider the Westerners, and we know a lot of them as equals. As the citizens of an independent India, a rising India, confident India, we treat them as equals. But the people who write like this, they think that they are serving the interests of their white masters in the West, and their colonial, they have a very colonial mindset. All that they are doing is they are feeding the biases that the West has, and that's all these people are doing. They have got certain sets of certain groups and all, which like that statement, and that is where it is going in. And the thing is, you see, these people are just reporters and nothing more. All the articles you mentioned, everything is coming from just mere reporters and nothing more than that. But the first shot in this was fired by guess who? Now, since we are taking names, I am going to take a name. Again, a man of Indian origin, a researcher, and he is not a researcher, reporter. He is one of the highest regarded men in the international relations and geopolitics, Ashley Tellis. And what did Ashley Tellis write? The first piece, just when the momentum started building up of Modi visit, Ashley Tellis wrote an article in Foreign Affairs where he said India cannot be trusted as an ally.
Okay, so why? Okay, so I want to read just another. I'm just reading small excerpts. Okay, this is the infamous Rana Ayub. Okay, for weeks now, criticism has been building around Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Washington. the Prime Minister and his Bharatiya Janata Party have been rightly accused of stoking sectarian violence between Hindus and Muslims. Now, I don't know where the genocide is happening, Rana ji, okay? I live in a very cosmopolitan city. Within 100 meters of my house, there is a Gurdwara, there is a mosque. I listen to the azan multiple times a day, and there is a Mata ka mandir. I move around, my reporters move around. I don't know where the sectarian violence is going on. This is like me saying that every time a black person is beaten up by cops in the US, that Joe Biden is unleashing racial violence in his country. I don't think he's doing that. That doesn't mean there isn't anything. It's a bit a leap of the imagination. Or every 3 or 4 days when a mass shooting takes place in America, okay, that the Republican Party is, what was the headline? Weaponized Bollywood. The Republican Party has weaponized the American citizens. But yet, Joyita, she is a global opinions contributing writer for a publication that says democracy dies in darkness.
Well, I think that is the problem with, Western legacy media. How many people, what is the percentage of people in the United States that is deriving their news, they are getting their news from Washington Post. Without going into the extremes of what Trump used to say, there is a very serious charge, about the Western media, Western legacy media, mainstream media being called fake and propagating fake narratives and fake causes. But you see what is going to happen in spite of all this hullabaloo by these Indian writers and some of the Westerners also. Some of these magazines, particularly in foreign affairs and all, they have been publishing a few articles. Everybody has become an expert now. So, they are talking about basically either India cannot be relied on, and the other is that, the problem with interests versus values.
Okay.
So you see,
all right.
nobody is scared,
let me
bothered.
just jump in, okay, with just a quick reality check. And anybody who's an impartial person can just understand the logic of what I'm saying, okay. This is recent history. I'm not going back into what happened with the Native Americans and George Washington being a slave owner. I'm talking about recent history. So, in this recent history, okay, you had a sitting US president who, after his tenure has gotten over, has been indicted and arrested on several different kinds of cases. He is calling this political vendetta. As we speak, in the US, there are debates going around the word gerrymandering. Google it, of how the American political parties weaponize the democratic system. There are debates going on in the US regarding the disenfranchisement of voters, regarding the disenfranchisement of Latino American or African American voters, okay. This is happening in the US right now, as we speak, okay. Now, imagine if India, a former Prime Minister, had been indicted and arrested, okay. So, now the Americans, Professor Nalapat, according to the editorial board of the Washington Post, need to have a word with the Indians about democracy. In which world does this make sense?
Look, Rishabh, the fact of the matter is, as Joyita alluded to, for a very long time, you have people who would like to feel superior to others. And you have a bunch of people from India who basically pander to that sentiment and who make them feel superior. Oh, India is a mess. India is terrifying. India has got genocide. Well, we have 230 million minorities in India, which is a large number. Guess how many minorities there are in a country that some of the names that you have mentioned never want to ever to target. But they've almost disappeared from there. But you're not going to see some of these distinguished names write about that at all. They're going to write about an imaginary genocide in India, and they're going to write about discrimination in India when every single government program is applicable to every single Indian citizen? The fact is, reality does not matter. What matters is to have a sense of moral superiority on India. You're seeing a country rise. You're seeing a country whose people are confident. You're seeing a country whose people value themselves. And that is terrible. You should not value yourself. You should regard yourself as trash. And if you do that, and if you publicly say my country is trash, people are trash, well, we'll make sure that you're well looked after, because we love to hear that. It's music to our ears. The fact is, Rishabh, this is ambient noise. The 90% of the United States has absolutely no connect with this kind of ambient noise at all. Whether it's the New York Times, whether it's the Washington Post, media like that, they are losing readership steadily because the readers are beginning to understand there's a disconnect between reality and what they see, especially in the opinion columns, but also in the news column. Now, Associated Press, for example, way back in the 1990s, it was fully in favor of Kashmir being handed over to Pakistan. It was very much in favor of in the Punjab. They were portraying a particular movement there, funded from across the border, in a very wonderful light. So this is the situation that has been there with this media for a very long time. It's not new. It's not just recent. But in Narendra Modi, their problem is they have a prime minister who comes from the Indian people, who comes from one of the most underprivileged of communities of the Indian people, from an extremely underprivileged background. And they're not, not the kind of people who throw cocktail parties and invite all the,
but I can tell you the kinds of people who do attend the cocktail parties,
Exactly.
and those are bureau chiefs of these various publications in New Delhi who all happen to live in, Jorbagh and Defence Colony and Vasant Vihar, have nice flat, they really get one-on-one with the real people of India. And they tell you, think about this movie that became so famous, Slumdog Millionaires. Okay, it's a representation of India. I want you to think of all the American TV shows and how they characterize India. Now, I live in India, okay? You look at Bangalore, you look at Bombay, you look at Delhi, okay? Just like in any city of the world, there are unhappy parts, but we've seen it change. I've seen it change so dramatically in my lifetime. India is completely different. But again, I'm told here, and Joyita, here's another one before I wind up this telecast. So let me just read it out. This is post reports by New Delhi Bureau Chief Jerry Shih. Forgive my pronunciation there. He explains, quote unquote, why Biden is rolling out the red carpet for the controversial world leader. And of course, the headline I've read out, why a once banned world leader is getting a state dinner. Now, this person is the New Delhi bureau chief. He's totally got to grips with the developments in India. He's totally representing modern India very well to the US people and to other people abroad.
Well, when you're looking at their reporting, there is a disconnect. There is a disconnect between the reality and the kind of reality that they are spinning for their readers. And you see what happens, this unmitigated constant attack on India. I would say primarily it started in a major way after 2019, the abrogation of Article 357, was it? 370, sorry. So you see, this thing is frankly now even some Americans who are reading these news, they are also starting to wonder what is going on. If India is such an evil country, if India's leader is such an evil, is a Hitler, Nazi, it's Nazi, India is like Nazi Germany, how is it that you do not get to see genocides? You keep hearing that there is going to be a genocide in India, but what is going on in India? And as a result of which, a lot of these people who are seriously interested in international relations and all, they are coming to the primary source, which is the Indian media.
Okay, so there has been a UK Prime Minister whose son was accused and found doing arms smuggling. Okay? The current US president's son accused of all sorts of nonsense in Eastern Europe, in China. Current US president's son. Okay? A former US president, accused of bankruptcy and all sorts of dodgy business dealing. Other US presidents accused of, Bay of Pigs to this and that. Okay? Now, if they were to visit India, would I be saying the controversial world leader Joe Biden, whose son stands accused? No, I won't be saying. Okay? Because there's no reason for me to discuss that issue. That's an issue for the American people. There's nothing controversial about Narendra Modi. Okay? He's won an election and he doesn't have a cousin Chacha doing arms smuggling in Africa. He doesn't have a son doing defense deals in Ukraine and other business deals with China. He is not being accused of sending a paramilitary force into the Bay of Pigs. It is laughably hypocritical. And the same people, these bureau chiefs, okay, who are sitting and reporting freely in the national capital, moving around in high society in the national capital, are the same people to say that India has no press freedom. Right. Laughable. Okay, I'm going to take a very short break. Our coverage on this continues. We're going to do an interview on the other side. But I just wanted to highlight this part at the very beginning. Okay? That you, the people of India and the people who represent the Indian community, are the voice that India represents in the global community. Who do you trust and respect? These people? There might be others in a very free media space here. India, ladies and gentlemen, has 400 television news channels, countless print publications. Some of them are rabidly against the present government. Some want to actually project what India is doing with a sense of purpose and pride. You make that call.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.